Someone make it make sense.
Probably a couple.
Hello, how's everybody doing? I hope you guys are having a great weekend, staying safe. Those of you guys who are in places with weather, I just seen there's a lot going on. There's like dust storms, fires, of course, there's tornadoes, all kinds of stuff. So a couple things, first of all, for housekeeping. So for those of you guys who were here last night, we were covering Lori Vallow. A couple things. There was a point where I think Twiz was asking a question about the death percentage 0 versus 100. And I said something like, I feel like they contradict themselves, because sometimes if you're at 0, it means you're about to die. But other times if you're like at 99%, you're about to die. And, when I was doing timestamps last night, as per usual, I always noticed things. And early on in the testimony, literally that question comes up with Agent Hart. And he's like, yeah, sometimes 0% means you're going to die. Sometimes 100% means you're going to die. So anyway, I have that time stamped. And also, we completely missed, but it's time stamped, the part where they say cheek to cheek and loin to loin. So that was important to point out. Shout out to Kids Mids. Hello, hello. Welcome. Want to make sure I put, again, anything important that happened, whether we, they're always time stamped. So, next on the agenda here, speaking of the tornadoes, my brother, who I've mentioned before, is currently out chasing them. Last I saw, he was in Mississippi. And so he's live streaming. He had, I think, several live streams today. And he's live streaming his chases, or sometimes maybe doing videos. I think it depends on what type of Wi-Fi he can get. But he does an awesome job. He's a professional storm chaser and photojournalist. So he has a lot of training and knowledge in terms of the weather, right? And he explains everything really well. And he also has a lot of training and experience. Sounds like I'm talking about court, right? Training experience when it comes to, how to take video and pictures and stuff. And so he actually will set up a drone. Believe it or not, it's crazy. In these crazy weather conditions, he'll be like, hold on and get out, stop the car, get out of the car and set up the drone. He'll set up the drone, and then he'll post the drone as a separate video of what he's getting with the drone. Incredible that the drone doesn't get blown to smithereens. But so for anyone who is interested and hasn't seen it already, especially for those of you guys, we got a lot of school friends that live in that area. So definitely check out his, ironically, speaking of Chad Daybell, I have that command there, Storm. So definitely check out his channel for boots on the ground coverage. And you will definitely notice, it's really funny. I would imagine that you guys, if you ever watch any of his live streams, you're gonna be like, oh my God, he's totally Chelsea's brother. Like, for example, I was watching one of his live streams earlier, and he's driving along, and it's like these crazy conditions where I'm like, if I were driving, I would be freaking the fuck out. I'd have to pull over. I would be like, the hail and the rain were so loud in one of these videos. It was like unnerving to me. I'm like, how the fuck? And he's just chilling. So he's driving along, and he's just starts whistling to himself. I can't even whistle, so I can't demonstrate it, but he just starts whistling to himself. Sometimes he'll just start like singing songs. Anyway, you guys will be like, yep. So, so there you go. For those of you guys who are interested. Next up, this is a momentous occasion, guys. Tonight we have our very first ever members only live stream. And this video should redirect the way I think it should work. Anyway, we will find out, right? And have it set up for members only. It should redirect. So I would assume what that means is it's going to redirect the members into the members only live stream. But should the magic of the portals fail us, just be on the lookout. It's our first members only live stream. We are going to play legal trivia. It's going to be super fucking fun. I'm very, very excited. I've been talking about this for a little while. I think I had mentioned that this was in the works because I had to kind of make up my own format of how I'm going to do it. So that is all complete. Kit Smith is saying now you need to watch 2 movies. Yeah. And the one like from today, for example, was pretty short. I think sometimes again they get limited by like the losing service or whatever. But I think he went live again later. I was teaching. I didn't get to see it. So he's just, he narrates the entire thing and he explains what's going on in the storm system and the weather. He talks about where he is. Everything he's doing, he explains it really, really well. It's very interesting. And I think it's really entertaining as well, and you'll learn a lot. And so, yeah. So yay, trivia night, legal trivia. Y'all, I'm super excited. So, but speaking of which, what I want to do is give a shout out to all of our channel members. Woo! All right. So, huge fucking shout outs to Sudi, Frankie Fags, aka Franks, Iowa Backyard, Candace, Carla, I Love Elephants, DB, Victorine, Twiz, Meg P, Need Some Z's, Flash, Heather Fitzgerald, Jess Beth, King Bees, The Purge, Kitsmits, Kat Randall, Gen X to the 7th Power, P Fox, Charlie Lynn, DSN, Too Fast for Fleas, ABC's Docket, Groovy Gia Girl, and Tonka. Some of those are the actual names. Some of those are the names as you've heard me call them. You guys are y'all know, everyone knows who I'm talking about, I would imagine. So shout out to everybody, and hopefully we will continue to grow the Scroll Crew members because it's going to be a lot of fun. We've already got quite a bit of members only like content, as it were. A lot of it so far pertains to orchids, and the reason why is because all that's really been requested. So I'm totally willing to do whatever you guys want. I've talked about, the possibilities are endless, right? So you guys just let me know. And as I've mentioned before, there is a thread in the Discord for members only suggestions or requests as well that you guys have. So feel free to put those there. But first off, all right, without further ado, we are here. We're going to be all caught up after tonight, guys, on the Karen Reed documents. I've not been covering the federal habeas stuff. I mean, it's just, I'm only one person, you know what I mean? And I feel like that's less pressing than these documents as they prepare to dive headfirst into another trial very shortly here. Shout out to Iowa. Shout out to, oh my God, dude, Batcat. I just can't. Look at Batcat. Look at that. I adore, I have to just say, I adore that cat. I will say I'm not like a cat person. Nothing against cats. Just not a cat person. I don't know why. I adore Batcat. It's really funny. Batcat is like my spirit cat. It's really funny. So okay. So Commonwealth's motion in limine to admit to results of a defendant's blood draw. So remember previously on batch number 2 or part 2, we covered the defense's motion in limine to exclude the blood shit from the blood done. Scientific terms there, guys. Okay, so they're wanting to have it admitted, right? So admit the results of defendant's blood draw at the Good Samaritan Hospital and resulting serum conversion and retrograde extrapolation. Now comes Commonwealth and respectively moves this honorable court in limine to admit evidence about the defendant's blood draw at Good Samaritan during the course, boop-a-doop-a-doop. The defendant's medical record of the blood test. So right now they're getting around hearsay, right? Is admissible under, here's the statute. So pursuant to the statute, records kept by hospitals. So this is like the business records exception, right? Records kept by hospitals shall be admissible and admitted by the court. Certified to be true. Yeah, incomplete. Okay. The Commonwealth anticipates that the medical providers who participated in the blood draw will testify to their knowledge, training, and expertise in how the test was administered to demonstrate their reliable basis in the knowledge and experience in the discipline. Additionally, witnesses will testify about blood alcohol serum conversion and retrograde extrapolation to establish the percentage of alcohol in the defendant's blood at the time she was driving her SUV and struck John O'Keefe. Blood alcohol serum conversion and retrograde extrapolation is admissible. All of these have Michael Morrissey at the top. Commonwealth's motion in limine to, yeah, and why does this not surprise me at all? I don't know that you've said that or not. It just doesn't surprise me. So I feel like you know, I just know some of you guys, I feel like I know you guys pretty well. I could guess those things. Yeah, the Bat Cat. I know it's the Bat Cat. If ever you don't want Bat Cat anymore, I will personally come to Iowa and adopt that cat. Not that that will happen. I'm just saying. I love that cat. There's something about that cat. So cute. So, all right, in court identification. I mean, this is gonna be granted. This is just them identifying her, and this happens in every trial. I mean, honestly, they have to do it, right? I'm not going to even really worry about that one too much. Okay, so Commonwealth's motion eliminate to preclude reference to any alleged bad character or any prior misconduct of the victim or any witness. Well, any witness. Speaking of which, don't worry, we're going to cover that witness list as well. Now comes Commonwealth. Okay, refrain from making any reference for the jury of the alleged bad character, in scare quotes, or alleged misconduct of the victim or any witness without prior court permission. Specifically, the defense has made allegations about civilian witnesses and law enforcement witnesses, and the public has been saturated with unfounded claims. Wow, really? That's not cool. That unfounded claims are being spread. Oh wait, that's not accurate. Unfounded claims of bad acts by the Commonwealth witnesses. Right. At the previous trial, the defense lodged a slew of claims of alleged bad acts of witnesses. Indeed, the defense has engaged in a comprehensive campaign to inundate the public with its claims and has repeatedly declared or implied that the Commonwealth, the prosecutors, the court, trial court employees, and witnesses are corrupt, declaring that virtually every civilian witness, police officer, and first responder was complicit in a cover-up of evidence, and implying that nearly every witness is a liar. Well, they pretty much are. In this case, I mean, a lot of them were, yeah, I'd say. Such allegations have no foundation or bearing on any issue in this case and would constitute impermissible bad character evidence, whether during the opening statement, during cross-examination of any Commonwealth witness, during direct examination of the defendant's witnesses, or during closing argument. Defense counsel should be restrained from making such references unless obtaining prior court approval. Oh, and Kitzman's changed her profile picture. What's your cat's name? Oh, that is so cute. I love that. And that is perfection. I can't see it well enough to tell what music that is. So please let me know what music that is. If I had to guess, it's probably Chopin, but let me know. I love it. And what's your cat's name? Oh, that's funny. Mr. Iowa would say, come get him. Oh my God. That's really funny. Dude, and the videos of Batcat with the dogs, dude, it's just so cute. It is so, and Batcat trying to be a squirrel. I can't. I have to take it in doses because it's overload. Cute overload. Okay, her name is Cleo, and the music is Joe. I don't know that music. Is that from like a movie or maybe an anime? If I had to guess, not a classical music or a classical piece that I'm familiar with, but that's cute. Cleo, that's really cute. I have an orchid named Cleo. Okay, so yes, court approval. Wait, am I missing first page? No, this is the second page. Okay. All right. So a judge may properly exclude evidence that is introduced merely to show bad character of witness. Further, evidence of prior misconduct may not be used to impeach a witness's credibility, except by production of records of criminal convictions pursuant to the limitations and requirements of the statute. A trial judge, I had a feeling, yes. So anime, got it. Cool. You don't play it by ear? It's interesting. Okay, so pursuant to the limitations of the statute, a trial judge has the sound discretion to determine whether prior bad act evidence is relevant and whether the probative value of such evidence is outweighed by its prejudicial effect, as per usual. The judge's determination will be upheld absent palpable error. So no error where the judge excluded evidence regarding victims' bookmaking activities and prior arrest. What this means is this. Like we've said this on the last live stream and other ones where so much of the shit with this case, right? Well, I mean, this is usually the case, but there's a concern here because a lot of it is like, it's at the court's discretion, right? Like the defense will have these filings. They're kind of trying to empower her. It's in the court's discretion. You can make this decision. And I'm like, what are the, That's exactly the problem, right? That's the problem, is it's in her discretion. And so this is to that same thing. The judge's determination will be held absent palpable error. So basically, no matter what on appeal, they're going to be like, the trial court got it right, basically, unfortunately. Evidence irrelevant to the issue at trial or a witness's reputation for truth and veracity is inadmissible to impeach a witness. Any bad character evidence of infidelity, propensity to consume alcohol, or the defendant's suggestion without any factual support that every witness is a liar or participant in an unfounded scheme to frame, in scare quotes, the defendant has no bearing on any of the issues raised in this case. The defense should not be permitted to introduce bad character nor specific bad acts of the victim or any witness. The proposed evidence only serves to disparage the victim's and witness's character and to distract the jury. Now, I don't remember anything coming up that could make John O'Keefe look bad, but I guess there was whiffs of him cheating, but it was not anything substantial enough that I don't know. I even remember. But this is interesting. This part here about the frame and scare quotes. Now, one of the motions that we have not gotten to yet, but we are going to get to, it might even be next, is the motion in limine from the Commonwealth regarding the third-party culprit defense. Because you might be thinking, wait a second, right? It says a scheme to frame the defendant has no bearing on this case. You might be thinking to yourself, well, wait a second, what about their defense? Well, correct. And the Commonwealth is trying to keep that out as well. Okay, so the proposed evidence only, right, it's disparage. We already read that part. All right, so that's the end of that one. Okay, so there it is. I had a feeling. I was like, I probably put this one next on purpose for this reason. Whenever I got these and started organizing them. So, oh, that's interesting. Mr. I was allergic. Oh, okay. Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, I don't have a reference point as to what, I don't know what this sounds like. So, but that makes sense if it's more advanced. Piano has more notes. All right. So here we go. Commonwealth's motion in limine to preclude the defendant from raising a third-party culprit defense. Now comes the Commonwealth. Okay. The defense position has chronically been fluid and unsubstantiated. The defense claim has been nebulous from its origin. Quote, Karen, just to be clear, you didn't do it? Quote, we know who did it, Steve. We know. And we know who spearheaded this. Who the fuck is Steve? Spearheaded this cover-up. You all know. Footnote 1. I guess we'll see. Okay, there's a link there. There's another footnote with a link. Well, I want to watch these now. Who the fuck is Steve? Let's finish reading it, and I'll see if I can figure out how to get these links. So we all know, Okay, after the first trial, the defense position began transformation. Quote, we're going to retool everything, and maybe some things will stay the same. We'll stay some more, but we're going to shuffle a lot of things around. Most recently, as Fox 25, the sit down, the defense responded to the question, in your opinion, there have been a few names that have surfaced in this third-party culpability theory. Who do you think, if John was beaten up and attacked in that house, who did it? Defense counsel uttered, we don't know. The defendant quickly echoed, we don't know. Counsel furthered, and it's not for us to know. Somebody other than Karen responsible for that, the killing of John. But who was it specifically? Others know, and they're not talking. Now, I will reiterate, when we read on that, so we went off on that, it wasn't really a tangent because it was extremely relevant, actually. But the March 5th hearing, the one that we had to watch twice, in the middle of all that, we took a moment to go and read the Gretchen Voss interview, or article rather, which happened, that was written before the first trial. And it's referenced all the time, right? But turns out very few people, including myself, had actually read it. So we read it. And one thing that was really interesting, well, there was more than one thing, but of relevance here that was interesting, was that it goes through the origins of the third party defense and how that got started. And it got started with Karen. And it got started because she was like kind of sleuthing, as it were, in a way. But here's what got her there. What got her there was Colin. And I found it surprising because I was like, huh. So this whole thing started with Karen. And for Karen, it started with Colin. And I was like surprised by that because I was like, really? Because it seems like Colin would be like the weakest of all the people, right? If you're going to try to find, whether you're going to use that in court or not, even if it's just something you're going to think, it seems like the weakest connection, as it were. But that's what she was thinking. That's how she got there. Right. Yes. That's definitely a logical conclusion for sure. But now I want to know who Steve is. So yeah. So interesting, right? Because Colin, and remember the whole thing, it was just what we heard in trial, I think was the main thing that she saw that made her think that. Remember the story about there was some spat over cutting through the yard? The thing with the fence, right? That's the thing. And I was like, huh? To me, I just don't see that being enough for them to have bad enough blood to where they on purpose get him to the house and get him inside. And then, it just doesn't seem plausible to me. I think there's way, way better theories people could have. Right. Yes. But I guarantee you the reason they included that in the first trial is because that was really important to Karen. Again, in that Gretchen Voss article, that's how Karen gets to the third party. She's like, who did this? Who could possibly? And so she starts digging around, and this is where she finds out about the trash on the lawn and that Colin had connections to the other people and the picture from the wedding. And again, that came up in the trial, and all that seemed kind of like, what? I mean, I remember when it came up in the trial, and I'm like, where are we going with all this? Those what we heard in the trial is literally what Karen latched onto to come up with this third party idea. I guarantee you the reason they were included is because they were important to her. So yeah. Okay. The evolving responses have vacillated from an unidentified certain villain to not knowing who's responsible and have been the hallmark of the defense's third-party culprit claims since its inception. The defense is not entitled to simply engage in scorched earth tactics, making baseless and incendiary claims about witnesses without any evidentiary foundation. Prior to the first trial, the court made rulings relative to the defense's third-party culprit claims. The court ordered, quote, based on the offer of proof on Friday, I'm well within my rights pursuant to case law to exclude the third-party culprit defense. I'm not going to do that now. I'm going to give you a chance to develop it through relevant, competent, admissible evidence, but you can't open up on it. So that is my ruling on that footnote 3. And that looks like a link to probably a pretrial hearing that we didn't watch because we didn't cover this pretrial. Despite the court's clear ruling that the defense launched into its third-party claims from the beginning of its opening statement, Karen Reed was framed. Her car never struck John O'Keefe. She did not cause his death, and that means somebody else did. Followed by, because the Alberts were involved and because they had close connections to the investigators in this case, Karen Reed was framed for a murder she did not commit. The evidence identifying or establishing a third-party culprit was never forthcoming throughout the trial, and to this day continues to be non-existent. The Massachusetts Guide to Evidence Statute 1105 provides that evidence that a third party committed the crimes charged against the defendant or had the motive, intent, and opportunity to commit the crimes is admissible, provided that the evidence has substantial probative value. In making this determination, the court must make a preliminary finding that the evidence is relevant, of course, is not too remote or speculative, and will not tend to prejudice or confuse the jury. Right. Rule 403. If the evidence is otherwise inadmissible, the court must also find that there are substantial connecting links between the crime charged and a third party, or between the crime charged and another crime that could not have been committed by the defendant. So one of the things the Commonwealth is relying on here is saying, Judge, you let it in before, but you said you were letting it in basically on a conditional basis. The condition being that they develop the evidence as they go along. So what they're trying to say is that evidence did not pan out. So Kit's is saying, I hate to say it, but learning that Karen was the first to push the third party thing that actually makes her seem more. I actually agree with that as well, Kit Smith. I agree. I totally agree. I agree. Because then it sounds like someone is reaching for any possible explanation other than I did this. But having said that, I agree with that, but also I could see the other side of it, where if the defense comes up with it, right? Like the attorneys, right? I don't know. It's tough. When you think about where did the origin for it come from? It seems like no matter what, it's going to look, you know what I mean? But I agree with what you're saying totally. Like, I think that in the article it even says, she's like, who would do this, Okay. Okay, after 3 years, the defendant has yet to provide any evidence as to whom they suggest is the third-party culprit responsible for the victim's death, or any evidence of alternative circumstances that would have caused the victim's death. While the absence of any evidentiary basis to support a third-party culprit defense was clear before the start of the trial. To accept the defendant's third-party culprit defense, the court would have to find the defendant demonstrated that the acts of the other person are so closely connected in point of time and method of operation as to cast doubt upon the identification of the defendant as the person who committed the crime. The evidence must have a rational tendency to prove the issue raised and cannot be too remote or speculative. Therefore, the defendant would have to provide evidence of substantial probative value that another individual had the motive, intent, opportunity. Think about this as it pertains to the 5'2" ninja assassins, right? So to raise a third-party culprit defense to one charge that is closely intertwined with the other charges would pose a real threat of prejudice by confusing the jurors. I think the jurors were confused for a lot of reasons anyway. The defendant's right to present a third-party culprit defense is non-absolute. An admission of feeble, third-party culprit evidence poses a risk of unfair prejudice to the Commonwealth because it inevitably diverts jurors. Now, here's the one thing I will say. This is where it gets tricky because, while I think pretty much everybody was in agreement that they really didn't need to go this far, they could have just relied on the Commonwealth not meeting their burden. The thing is that even in doing so, the only explanation for how those pieces of taillight got in the yard, if it didn't happen with Karen Reed hitting him with her car, the only way that those taillight pieces get there is if somebody put them there. And that's where it gets tricky, right? Like there's several things that can't really be explained without saying, well, someone else had to be involved. But even if you remove all that and just look at the bare bones of this case, the basics, right? Car, person, right? We know that it's scientifically impossible that he got hit by a car and died as a result of those injuries, right? So then how do you explain the shattered taillight pieces in the yard, right? And that's where it gets a bit tricky because, again, they don't have to explain that, but even just in talking about the evidence, it's like it does lend itself to like, well, somebody had to put them there, right? Kind of just by using logic. Shout out to James. Welcome, welcome, welcome. James joins us from North Dakota? South Dakota. Wait, North Dakota? No, South Dakota. Crap, I can't remember. One of the Dakotas. Right. Kit's missing that and the Arcadude statement that John O'Keefe was not hit by a car. That needs further explanation. Right. Yeah. Will you remind me so my brain won't annoy me? Are you North or South Dakota? Okay, so the defendant's ability to mount third-party culprit defense is not without limits. Additionally, hearsay offered for the truth of the matter asserted that a third party is the culprit and not within a hearsay exception may be admitted only if in the judge's discretion the evidence is relevant, will not tend to prejudice or confuse the jury, and there are other substantial connecting links to the crime. So we got some case law here. The court has the discretion. Again, here we go. Court has the discretion to rule in advance of trial whether the defendant has made an adequate showing that potential culprits were connected to the crime. The defendant must provide advance warning to the court before offering third-party evidence or argument at trial. The defendant has yet to make a proffer of substantial probative value that any other individual is culpable for the crimes. The arguments previously set forth by the defendant in pretrial motions contains only vague inferences, rank speculation, and scant details of who, if anyone, was driving the ambulance. Who, if anyone, had the motive, intent, opportunity to kill. Third-party culprit defense is simply a tactic to unjustly prejudice the Commonwealth. Trial tactic is like any other, limited by the fundamental principle that evidence must be relevant. Those of you guys who are members, hint, hint, some things we're reading here might come up in our trivia night. If the defense offers its own theory of the case, its evidence must have a rational tendency to prove the issue the defense raises, and the evidence cannot be too remote or speculative. For the foregoing reasons, the defendant should be precluded from alleging that any other individual is culpable for the victim's death, as there is no relevant or substantially probative evidence to justify the admission of such a speculative claim. Furthermore, despite this court's previous order denying the defendant's request to raise a third-party culprit defense during the defense opening statement at the first trial, Attorney Yannetti was permitted to declare there 3 separate times that Karen Reeder was framed. Should the court preclude the defendant from raising a third-party culprit defense? So I think what it was they aren't allowed to say a specific person. And I think that makes sense, right? In a way, I think it's probably better that they were given that restriction. But in other words, it's the third party, but like they can't be specific, which, yeah, again, like I think in some ways is better. I mean, probably more than one way is better for the defense, whether they even if that's not what they wanted, because really it looks like a bunch of people could have done this, right? So yeah, I totally agree. Shot needs some Z's. She says it's true, but all they really need to say is it's not the defense. Absolutely. I mean, I totally agree. And they focus on I agree. We shall see. We shall see what they do. But you know, you can see how in the moment at trial, sometimes you feel like the jury's going to want an explanation. But again, it's not the defense's burden. And that's really the thing, right? While legally we all know it's not the defense's burden, that just like with motive, right? Like I'm not talking about this case, I'm talking about like any other case, right? Like just like with motive, like pick a murder trial, any trial. It's like motive, they don't have to prove motive, right? But why does that come up so oftentimes in the vast majority of murder trials? Because everybody knows the jury's going to want an explanation, even though it's not required, right? It's the human element of it. So even though we all know that legally the defense does, the defense can hammer their burden all day long, and they should, right? But I think that part of the trouble is if they're in the trial and they find themselves, it's like, it's that moment where it's like things happen in testimony. It's like, if I were a juror, what would I be thinking? And if the thought to that is, I'd be wanting to know how the fucking taillight pieces got there. You know what I mean? You can kind of see how, even though it's not required, the jurors might want those answers, and that's where it can get tricky. Okay, so next up, defendant's motion in limine to exclude false and irrelevant statements of Michael Proctor. So this actually is not all that interesting. Basically, this is the part about Trooper Proctor making claims about Yannetti at the school in the parking lot. This whole thing was just, I didn't pay this much mind. I was like, whatever. I mean, it doesn't seem like it's true. I don't know why this is even coming in. This is just, I'm not even actually really worried that much about it. But Mr. Yannetti, rightfully so, is worried about it, right? Because it makes him look bad. The thing about leaving the stupid parking lot. Yeah, I'm just, whatever. But he's really going to make this is like a more substantial pleading, isn't it? I'm going to go on to the next one, though. Okay. Defendant's motion for reconsideration. Okay, Dr. Crosby, or is he? I guess he counts as a doctor, right? Dr. Crosby, reconsideration. Here we go. Who all was shocked by this order? I was. And Kit Smith is agreeing. We as law squirrels know that the defense doesn't have to prove shit. Yeah, but most lay people haven't had that hammered into their skulls as much. That's exactly the thing. Yep. Because you can think something logically or like rational, like, you know what I mean? Like you can be thinking this and like know something in the rational part of your mind, but your gut could still want more, right? If you're a juror. So yeah, totally. But having it hammered into your head millions of times helps. So Kitsman says, I'm going to amend my hope for the defense strategy this time around. Karen Reed's frame still works. It lets you say things like how the right. But so it doesn't necessitate answering, if not Karen Reed, then who? But I know people would still want answers. Right. Yeah, and we actually covered that too, because compared to the Dr. Russell, it was crazy. Shout Candace. So for anyone who's just joining us now and didn't hear, this should redirect you guys into our first members only live stream. Yay! It's going to be legal trivia night. I'm super excited. And we may not be able to get through all of the documents. So what we'll do is whatever we don't get through, we'll do later. But we're going to get through as much as we can, and then it should redirect you guys. So, okay. So Dr. Crosby. So now comes Karen Reed. Please reconsider. After such reconsideration, defendant requests that the court exclude the entirety of the proper testimony of Dr. Crosby. In the alternative, and at a minimum, defendant requests an evidentiary hearing to determine whether the Commonwealth can meet its burden to satisfy the requirements of doubt. Now, one of the things that I've said is this, right? That Judge Bev, above all, she's like April 1st or bust. So one of the things that is going to be interesting here, right, is can they suggest this evidentiary hearing and do it in a way where they don't take up too much time? Because she's not going to, that's all she fucking cares about is April 1st. The courthouse could blow up. She will still show up on April 1st. Mark my words. So the defense completes questioning of Dr. Crosby in approximately 1/2 day of any hearing. That might be too long. Hoss long? Too long. Maybe. I mean, because they've got the hearing on the 18th, and it's like, my recollection from the previous hearing was it's like she's like the 18th and maybe the 19th, and that's it. And that's for them to argue the motions in limine. I don't know how the fuck they're gonna get this done. Whatever. Yeah, totally agreed. Yep. Okay, the court's March 6th order. In denying defendant's motion to exclude the proffered testimony of Dr. Crosby, the court stated in its March 6th order that, quote, the Commonwealth has satisfied the foundational requirements of Robert Lanigan. I mean, it's a never mind. The evidence will assist the jury. Dr. Crosby is an expert in dog bite wounds. How? Never mind. Don't even. Just keep reading. There's an appropriate basis for his opinion in the record. Of what? Never mind. And the proposed testimony, principles, and methods are reliable. What methods? Keep reading. The defense objection goes the way of the evidence, not its admissibility. And that was her entire fucking ruling right there. The court did not provide any record citation or any other record evidence for how the Commonwealth had met its burden to satisfy the 5 foundational requirements, including prominently the methods are reliable requirement. Yeah, kind of important. Nor did the court address the alternative request of the defendant that a Robert Lanigan hearing should be held should the court not exclude Dr. Crosby outright on the papers alone. The March 6th order contrasts, yes, with the court ordered 2-day evidentiary hearing of Dr. Russell, a medical doctor with approximately 30 years experience. And basically they're saying she's obviously more qualified, yet look at the hoops they made her jump through, right? That's basically what they're saying. The instant motion for reconsideration. The defendant does not waive any and reserves all of the bases for exclusion of Dr. Crosby as stated in her original exclusion motion, yet for efficiency in this reconsideration motion, the defendant focuses on just factor 4 set forth in Polk, namely that the theory underlying the opinion is reliable. This factor is also known in the Daubert-Lanigan parlance as the methodology prong. A failure of any one of the 5 foundational factors set forth in Polk compels exclusion of the proffered testimony at issue. And then the Commonwealth's opposition to the defendant's exclusion motion. The Commonwealth had 4 opportunities to show that it can meet the Daubert-Lanigan methodology prong. Its written opposition dated February 17th, the supplemental report of Dr. Crosby, dated February 19th, in which he discussed the mold aspect of his unsupported mold measurement methodology, but failed to account for the absence of any requisite overlay in his methodology. Oral argument on the exclusion motion in the list of cases in which he's testified was submitted on March 6th. In each of the opportunities, that's crazy because the hearings were the 4th and the 5th. They didn't submit any of that until after the hearings? Oh my God. In each of the opportunities, the Commonwealth failed to even attempt to show that the reported mold measurement methodology employed by Dr. Crosby in opining on whether the wounds to the right arm of the decedent were caused by a dog bite or dog attack is generally accepted in the relevant medical or scientific community, that its methodology meets the apt Daubert-Lanigan factors. Notably, Dr. Crosby has never attempted to make such a showing either. His report is completely bereft of even a mention of satisfaction of general acceptance in his mold measurement methodology or satisfaction of Daubert-Lanigan factors, let alone a showing of meeting them. A couple things. So first of all, show of pause, raise your scroll paw if who here does it is like, I need fucking actual proof I can rely upon that this is Chloe for so many reasons, right? Just there's so many reasons. We could discuss them all. There's so many reasons why that seems fishy, and I don't, let me know. What do you guys think? Raise your scroll paw. Second of all, happy to see the word bereft being used here because it's a word you don't hear very often. And one of my favorite artists, like musical artists of non-classical music, although there's some overlap, but anyway, uses very unique vocabulary words in her songs, and she uses the word bereft in it's actually one of my all-time favorite songs of all time. Like, that's why I said all time twice. It's one of my favorite songs, and they're no longer bereft, how I shook and I couldn't remember is the lyric with that word in it. Yep. I know, a paw emoji, right? By the way, for anyone who hasn't checked out, we've got a ton of members only emojis, and recently added is the 2 gray boys. Because remember, as more people join, YouTube lets you make more. Because I'm at max capacity. I need to have, what does it say? I think we need 5 more people to become members, and then I can add more emoji. But the newest one is the 2 gray boys. But yeah, we do need a scroll paw. And that's facts there. Yep. Nothing's logical. Yep. Joanna Newsom, Sawdust and Diamonds. Her voice is a challenge that you have to get used to, but it's worth it. So right. And the thing for me is this, where that came up, of course we covered it, right? Where that came up, it was during one of the voir dires of Dr. Russell, right? Like, in other words, there was never any talk about being able to find Chloe in the first trial. They never brought it up. It was never like it was not, in other words, everyone just conceded that it was like she was dead, right? And it seemed like the Commonwealth even conceded that to a certain extent. And then you had Nicole Albert kind of try to act like that wasn't true, but it wasn't really all that believable. And, Lawley didn't really push the matter. But here's the thing, as far as Chloe goes this time around, it wasn't like, okay, here's a filing and we're going to do this and that, blah, blah. It only came up when Hank Brennan was cross-examining Dr. Russell. And remember that cross-examination, because it was like insane and it was like hours and hours and it was really feisty and he was being really rude. It only came up. In other words, to me, it felt very improvised or unplanned. Like, it only came up because of whatever they were talking about. It was clearly not planned. It was like she said something that shut his argument down. He's like, oh yeah, well, what about if we could say we had Chloe's teeth or something like that? That's how it came up. And I was like, it sounded like a thing about like a bluff, right? Like a bluffing, like in poker or whatever. That's what it sounded like to me. And that's the way that it got introduced to the world. So yeah. Right. If Chloe was microchipped, right. Almost they got an affidavit from the new owners or whatever. What are you referencing here in instances? Or just in general, maybe, probably. So yeah, so okay. Yeah, and then here we go. Speaking of which, right? Speaking of, I remember like I was just saying an affidavit, right? An affidavit from I was suggesting maybe like the potential new owners or whatever, or parents of Chloe. But he has never submitted an affidavit to support anything about himself, including his qualifications or documentation of any kind of how his purported methodology is generally accepted or otherwise reliable with citations to medical or scientific literature. The February 17th affidavit submitted by Mr. Breenan, I should say, is likewise of no weight in the inquiry, as he lacks firsthand knowledge or the requisite expertise in the subject matter of the dispute. But even in his affidavit, Mr. Breenan mentions nothing about satisfaction of the common acceptance precept or the Daubert-Lanigan factors. Tellingly, Mr. Breenan merely states in paragraph 7 in a bald conclusion that Dr. Crosby has engaged in substantial methodology. Yeah. Substantial does not begin to satisfy the requirement that the mold measured methodology of Dr. Crosby is supported by evidence of common acceptance in the relevant medical or scientific community or satisfaction of the relevant Daubert-Lanigan factors. Likewise, in its written opposition, the Commonwealth stated that Dr. Crosby engaged in recognized methodology. Yeah, but there's like not even any methodology. I'm sure that's what he's going to say. To study the abrasions on John O'Keefe's arm, but wholly failed to state any source for such recognition. Commonwealth's opposition at 2. There is none. Sick burn right there. Sick burn. Sick burn. As a result, the Commonwealth has provided the court with no basis on which to conclude that the mold measurement methodology of Dr. Crosby is reliable. The prerequisite for satisfying the fourth factor of the Polk, the methodology prong of Daubert-Lanigan, the court cannot satisfy its gatekeeper function by invoking the same conclusory statements as the Commonwealth has invoked here regarding a reliable methodology. Now, interestingly, right, they're not challenging whether or not the dog was Chloe. They're like, we don't even give a shit. This is nonsense anyway. We're not even getting to that point yet. We don't even need to argue that yet because there's no methodology. No, it's okay. I realized it was a joke, and then it was. I thought maybe you were referencing something specific in the filing, but it was a joke. It's all good. Right? Do we even know he exists? We navigate right. I had played Uno when I honestly don't remember much about it. I have played it when I was a kid. I don't really remember the rules, to be honest with you. The gatekeeping function of the court and its importance. Case law makes clear that the gatekeeping function of the trial court is especially significant. This is all the more so in light of the seriousness of the charges lodged by the Commonwealth here. As the Guide to Evidence states, Rule 702 is based on FRE 702, the Common Acceptance Test, the gatekeeping function of the trial judge under Daubert-Lanigan and Rule 702 precepts is of paramount importance. Under Daubert-Lanigan, the motion judge in her role as gatekeeper in bold has a significant function to carry out in deciding on the admissibility of a scientific expert's opinion, emphasis added. The reason for this importance was recently underscored as follows, because Rule 702 grants wide latitude to offer opinions, including those that are not based on firsthand knowledge or observation. Expert evidence can be both powerful and quite misleading. As such, the importance of the gatekeeping function cannot be overstated. A judge's findings must apply the correct legal standard to the facts of the case and must be supported by examination of the record. The gatekeeping inquiry must be tied to the particular facts. The Polk-Daubert-Lanigan analysis is no different here, as where the witness in question is stipulated to be a rebuttal witness. Right, Dr. Crosby would be a rebuttal witness. The facts and law in Hilsinger are quite similar to the instant case and thus compel the same result. The court stated in response to defense proffer of an expert witness is in a different case. The defendant has not directed the court to any evidence demonstrating that Sower's methods for determining primary purchasing consideration have been tested, subjected to peer review, are commonly accepted in the field, or have otherwise been scientifically validated. Nor has the defendant made any attempt to demonstrate that Sower's methods were reliable independently of industry practices. Instead, it simply concluded without any citation, support, or further argument that Sower's worked from a reliable survey methodology. That assertion alone, standing alone, is not sufficient to demonstrate the reliability of Sower's methods. I don't know how you pronounce that. The Commonwealth has postured its opposition to defendant's motion to exclude Dr. Crosby almost exactly as it did in clean concepts. Substitute the conclusory in quotes, recognized methodology, end quote, in the instant case with reliable survey methodology. Parlance. Okay, parlance. Why does this make me think of hard as a rock? Like in clean concepts, a conclusory, unsupported, recognized methodology assertion of the Commonwealth here is insufficient. Moreover, Dr. Crosby does not even assert that his methodology is recognized, let alone does he cite to the literature or otherwise for medical or scientific acceptance of his methodology. Right. He's not saying he has a methodology or that it's recognized or that there's acceptance of it in the scientific community. It's all imaginary. It's just, this is imaginary is what it is. And this silence exists in the high-pitched volume of medical and legal literature, calling into serious question the reliability of even known methodologies involving forensic odontologists, veterinarians, medical doctors, and medical examiners, all of which are lacking here with Dr. Crosby. Likewise, the March 6th order does not state any evidence of how or where the purported recognized methodology of Dr. Crosby is generally accepted in the relevant medical or scientific community, nor does the March 6th order analyze any of the 5 Daubert-Lanigan factors by tying them to the facts of this case or otherwise cite support of the record of the motion for how unsupported mold measurement methodology of Dr. Crosby is reliable. Defendant respectfully submits that had the court performed the entirety of the gatekeeping function with reference to the motion to the motion record evidence, it would have had to come. Sorry, the M was hard to read. It would have had to come to the inexorable conclusion that the mold measurement methodology employed by Dr. Crosby in coming to his opinions about the medical cause of the wounds to the right arm of the decedent was completely unsupported and thus not reliable. The Commonwealth has had 4 chances to tether the methodology proffered by Dr. Crosby to a study or other form of common acceptance or otherwise satisfy the apt Daubert-Lanigan factors, yet it has failed to do so each time. This failure is not an oversight or mere happenstance. Rather, it is because the methodology of Dr. Crosby is not generally accepted in the relevant medical or scientific community and cannot satisfy the apt Daubert-Lanigan factors. So conclusion, under Daubert-Lanigan and Commonwealth v. Polk, respectfully, the court is duty-bound to fully exercise its important gatekeeper function by examining the record and making what can only be one finding, the failure of a reliable methodology by, and thus the exclusion of, Dr. Crosby on the papers alone. And testimony by Dr. Crosby at trial about his unsupported mold measurement methodology would seriously mislead the jury into believing his methodology is based on science and is reliable. Nothing could be further from the truth. And because the issue of how the injuries to the right arm of a decedent is a key issue for both parties, his testimony without the sponsoring imprimatur of the Commonwealth would be extremely prejudicial to the defendant. In the alternative, at a minimum, an evidentiary hearing on Dr. Crosby is compelled. And then we have this affidavit from Mr. Alessi. Honestly, there's not anything in, I don't really know why this was necessary. This is like literally exactly everything that we already have. So next up, I think we might actually get through the documents that we were going to get through. So we've got one other thing, and that is the well, I wanted to go through the Trooper Proctor article and then the videos with the taillight, but we might do that. Maybe we'll do that on the members only. But as far as the documents go, we had another one, the only other thing that's come out so far, and that is the witness list. So let me pull this up and share it to you guys. Commonwealth's, oh my God, Commonwealth's witness list. So Okay, interesting. Yeah, it's not, honestly, it's not nearly as atrocious as some other court filings that we've read recently that are tough to even figure out what the fuck they're trying to say. Like actual huge, 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 huge issues. Huge issues. Okay, so the witness list. So I made this into a PDF so that we can actually do things to this if we want, like highlight it or type things in. So civilian witnesses. So let me zoom out a smidge here. So we got the Alberts, right? We got Brian Jr., Caitlin, Chris, Colin, Julie, Nicole. I don't remember who Caitlin Boudreau is. Do you guys? Michael Camerano, Katie Camerano, Richard Dentano, Brian Higgins, Louis Jutras, the kids. Turtle Boy is listed. That's got to be just to fuck with him. There's no way they're calling fucking Turtle Boy. No way. No way they're calling Turtle Boy. They put him on the witness list. You know what? I wonder if that's a way to keep him from watching the trial because the exclusionary rule. I bet that's what that's about. I bet that's why. I bet that's why. Yep. What dicks. That's got to be why. Sarah Levinson, Heather Maxon, Jen McCabe, Matt McCabe. No Allie McCabe. Sister Nagel, Brother Nagel, the O'Keefes, Karen's parents, Kurt Roberts, Carrie Roberts. I don't remember who Stephen Scanlon is. The sisters Sullivan are still on the list. You've got to be kidding me. Why are they doing Aruba? Come on, Brennan. Come on. Oh, there's a question. No, Caitlin Albert's there, though. So oops. I don't know who Stephen Scanlon is. Okay, Michael Trotta. That's the who was he again? Is that Lucky? Lucky's real name, maybe? Rebecca Trayers. Don't remember who that is. Gretchen Voss. Jason Becker. Okay, no, see, these are all from the fire department. Okay. Law enforcement witnesses. So newly added, we've got Sergeant Dejan Pietro, that dude. They still have Gallagher on there. Lank. Helena Rafferty, that I think is new. She certainly didn't testify at the last trial, right? Like, I don't know who was on the witness list before because, again, didn't cover this pre-trial. But what we can say is definitely who definitely did not testify before. Helena Rafferty, nope. So I wonder if they had to add her because of this dude. Because I think this is going to go hand in hand with these issues that they couldn't get into last time because they didn't have enough evidence of it yet, which is the fuckery with the Lolliport videos. Forensic laboratory witnesses, crime, okay, whatever, expert witnesses. All right. Shannon Burgess, Colleen Crawford, Dr. Crosby, Robert Gilman, that's the hard as a rock dude, Jessica Hyde, Gary Fowler, Andrew Klein, Mike Morley, Justin Rice. That's the dude who was really fucking confused. I think I still have a thing for that. Hold on. Did I keep that one? Oh, I don't know if I kept it. Fuck, I should have kept it. I used to have a thing for that that was the dude who was just really fucking confused the whole time. Dr. Scorty Bello, Dr. Stonebridge, Justin Welcher, Ian Whiffen, Isaac Wolf. We still don't know much about this dude. I'm sure we'll be able to see a Motion In Limine about it. A neuroscientist. Needham Police Department. Massachusetts State Police. And look at this. They got Proctor on there. Yuri Buchanan, Garino. Wow. Trooper Paul? Trooper Paul? Trooper Paul. Oh my God, is Trooper Paul going to testify again? I really hope so. I hope Trooper Paul testifies again. Right here, guys. So actually, I think I can hide. Dude, I hope he testifies again. Please, please. That was the greatest shit show of all time. It will never be topped. It will never be topped. It'll go down in history. I just want to highlight this. Highlight. Sure, any color will do. Oh my God. Can it not be shitty though? Can it do it? Can it do it the kind where it like does a straight line? Oh my God. Okay. There's times where I do this and like it makes it look nice for me, but now it's making me do it and it's gonna look shitty. Oh my God. I mean, literally, I don't know who I don't remember Zachary Clark and Evan Brent, but they're the two exceptions here of like, holy fuck. All right. Whew. He's not under the expert witnesses, but he wouldn't have to be, right? You know, he would still be listed under state police. Like, in other words, the expert witnesses listed are the ones that they're bringing in and paying, like third party. They're not within law enforcement. So in other words, to answer this question, they still could be trying to get him in as an expert. Honestly, we don't know. We don't know. They would just, even if they, you know, again, they could try to, it's just, he's law enforcement. So he's still going to be under the law enforcement category. And then they could still try to offer him as an expert. Whether they do or don't, I just hope they call him and I hope it's even worse. And I'm sure he has PTSD from the last time. Let's go back through real quick and make a couple other highlights since I have the highlighter thing open. So we're missing though Allie McCabe. We're missing Barrows, Officer Barrows. What else are we missing? So like, I'm surprised. So Turtle Boy, again, I think they're trying to keep him from being able to come and watch the trial. Oh my God. Why? I think they're trying to keep him from being able to watch the trial. I'm just shocked that they've got some of these people. And then this is Brother Nagel, Sister Nagel, Sister Sullivan, Jesus Christ. Where else was I surprised about? Oh yeah, Helena Rafferty. So these are the big additions here that I can think of. Right. Gallagher with the solo cups, always good, not Bodhi Technology. And then there's that. And then your experts. So we got Crosby, you know, and then we got Hard as a Rock Dude in terms of the ones that are going to be especially interesting. And then I'm going to highlight also this dude because we don't know much about him. There may have been a motion. I'm trying to think. I'll go back and look. There might have been a motion related to him that I couldn't find, and then we had other hearings. I'll go back and look and see if I've missed any filings. The name, I feel like I've seen the name printed before, which means there might be a court filing that somehow I didn't get put into my folder. So I'll take a look for that as well. And then all these guys. So I think I can save this. Yay! I should save it with the highlights there. So so we got through. How did they spell that? Let me see here. AIZIK. So we got through everything that I wanted to get through for Karen Reed, minus the Trooper Proctor article and minus the taillight videos. Some of you guys may have seen or heard about. They've been kind of going viral. So we might just save that for the members only. Because I want to go ahead and switch that over so we can redirect you guys into the members only live stream. So that is what we will do. So hopefully that works. But for any of you guys who are members, you should be able to find it. So without further ado, I'm going to roll the outro and see you guys next time.